This video is over review number 9, solving systems of equations. Problem 1 asks us to write the function of a line that includes the points 4, 9, and negative 2, negative 6. So because I have 2 points, I can graph them, or I can use the calculator and stat edit. For this problem, if I go to my calculator, for stat edit, I need to click stat, enter. I'm going to clear out everything that's in there and plug in 4, negative 2 in L1, 9, negative 6 in L2, stat, calc, 4, enter, and I get 2.5, which is a fraction 5 halves, minus 1. So my equation, y equals 5 halves x minus 1. Problem 2 tells us that the graph of the line below contains these 2 points. Write the equation of the line that is shifted up 8 units. So because I have 2 points, I can use stat edit and use negative 3, 2 and negative 1, negative 4 to find my original line. So stat edit, negative 3, excuse me, negative 3, negative 1, 2, negative 4. Stat, calc, 4, enter, and I have the equation y equals negative 3x minus 7. Now, if we are shifting this up 8 units, we are changing the y-intercept. When I add for my new equation, my slope is staying exactly the same. My y-intercept becomes a positive 1. Now, we could find that just by adding 8 to my y-intercept, but I still have to find the slope to know the equation. Problem 3 asks us to solve the system by graphing, and this one gives us a 10 by 10 grid, meaning they want us to graph it by hand. For this top problem, I can't graph until I have solved for y, so I subtract 3x from both sides. Negative y equals negative 3x minus 4. And then divide everything by negative 1. Y equals 3x plus 4. So when I graph the green line, I start up at 4, I go up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, and can draw my line. The second equation is already solved for us, so there's nothing I have to solve. I start up 4 and go up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1. And as you can tell from my points or from my equations, these are exactly the same, which means my solution is all real numbers or infinitely many. Those two words mean the same thing, and you could see either one on your test, so you need to know that infinitely many and all reals are the same thing. This one is all reals are infinitely many because my equations are exactly the same or because my graph is exactly the same. Excuse me. Problem 24 tells us that Elizabeth met 24 of her cousins at a family reunion. The males were 6 less than twice the females. If M is males and F is females, how could we find, or what system could be used to find the total number of male cousins? So the first thing I know is that there are 24 cousins total. So we have some amount of male and some amount of female for a total of 24. Now I can mark out A because it doesn't have that equation, and C because it doesn't have that equation. Looking at the differences between B and D, it has to deal with the second sentence here. So they tell us the males were 6 less than twice the females. So males are or equal 6 less than is a turnaround word, twice the females. So 2F minus 6, which is going to be answer choice B. Answer choice D has F's and M's switched around. 5 asked me to solve the following on the calculator and sketch a quick graph. So for both of these tables, I need to plug them into stat edit to find my equations. So I'm plugging in my first table exactly like I see it. stat, calc, 4, enter, 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 and we get y equals negative 2x plus 4. And because they want me to graph these in my calculator, I do need to label which one I'm using as y1 and which one I'm using as y2. I'm going to put the second one into stat edit. Stat, calc, 4, enter, 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 and we get 4x minus 8. Now, to plug into the calculator, I'm going to switch over to show you what I'm going to put into y equals and how I would do it on a real calculator. So, in my real calculator, I've cleared the memory, so I know everything is good to go. I'm going to go to y equals. In y1, I'm going to type my top equation, negative 2x plus 4. In y2, I'm going to type my bottom equation, 4x minus 8. From here, I'm going to click graph to see what it looks like on the graph. And I can see that my two lines are in fact crossing. In order to find the intersection, I click second, trace, 5. It says first curve, so I click enter. Second curve, I click enter. Guess, I click enter. I keep clicking enter until I see the word intersection. The intersection is at 2, 0. So going back to my paper, the intersection is a fancy word for solution. And I'm just going to draw a rough sketch of what I'm seeing in my graph and make sure I make them cross at the point 2, 0. Problem 6, we are graphing these by hand. So on the top one, I need to solve for y in order to be able to graph it.
What's up?
Thanks, Mandy. So for my top equation, I have x plus 2y equals 10. I move x to the other side. 2y equals negative x plus 10. And then divide by 2. So y equals negative 1/2 x plus 5. So for this one, I start up at 5. I go down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, and connect my dots together in a line. The second equation is already solved for us, so I start up at 3. I go down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, and graph this line. As we can see from the graphs, these lines are parallel. They have the exact same slope but different y-intercepts, so they're not the same line, they're parallel lines. So this means there is no solution. There is not one single point on that entire graph where these two lines will cross, ever. For problem 7, I would recommend drawing this out. They want something parallel to the x-axis that goes through the point 5, negative 2. So plot just a random point about 5, negative 2, so go to the right a little, down a little. Parallel to the x-axis looks like an x-axis, so this is going to be a HOI. HOIs have a slope of 0. My equation is y equals my y point of negative 2. The second one has the same point, but this time they want it perpendicular to x, meaning it's cutting through x, making it a box. My slope is going to be undefined. My equation is x equals my x point. Problem 9, two lines have the given equations. At what point simultaneously satisfies both equations? So in my calculator, I can use matrices because these are set up with x's, y's, and answers. So I have 2, 3, negative 1, negative 1, 1, negative 6. So I'm going to put this in my calculator and then write my answers over here. Remember that if it is a nice solution, I want the 1, 0, 0, 1 and 2 different answers. So in the calculator, to get out of this, I'm going to click second quit. To do the matrix, I click second matrix. I want the calculator to do some math, so I scroll over, and I want to scroll up to B, the really rapid equation fixer, and I click enter. To get the matrix, I click alpha zoom. This is a 2 by 3, so I need to make sure 3 is highlighted on the column. If it is not, you scroll over to 3 and click enter. I scroll down and click OK. I am now typing in the matrix that I wrote down on my paper using the right arrows to scroll over. And once this looks exactly like what I have on my paper, I click enter. Once I have an answer, I'm going to write that down. So I have the 1001, and then I have the -7, -15. So my solution is going to be those numbers off to the right side, -7, -15. I write them in that order because I put my x's in first and then my y's. Problem 10 asks us to graph a line that has a slope of -4/3 and goes through the point -6, 2. So I go left 6, up 2 for my starting point. My slope is -4/3, so I'm going to go down 4 and then right 3, down 4, right 3. They don't ask me to do anything except draw it, so I'm done with that problem. Problem 11 tells me if x, 4 is the solution to the system of equations, what is the value of x? So there's a couple different things I can do here. The fastest and easiest is because this is already set up for matrices. I'm going to continue to do the matrices on this. So this is what's going to go in my calculator. And then my answer should have 1, 0, 0, 1, and I know that y is 4, so I'm looking for the number that goes up in the top right. So, in my calculator, second matrix, math, scroll to B, enter. Alpha, zoom, 2 by 3 is already selected, so I go down and click OK. I am typing in 4, 5, 8, 2, -3, and -18. I have the 1, 0, 0, 1, so I know there is a nice solution. Y does equal 4, and they already told me that, so my answer is the -3. That's the only missing part I was missing. So x equals -3. Problem 12, we have some values for two linear equations shown in tables. They ask for the solution to the system. Remember, when you are looking in a graph, you are looking for where your x's and y's are exactly the same in both tables. So if I start with equation 1, when x is -2, y is -4, I have a -2 here, and I have a -4 here. So that is my solution because it is the point where they are exactly the same in both tables. Excuse me. Problem 13 asks us to write the line that contains the point -1, -8, or -9, excuse me, and has the slope of 4. So because we have a point and a slope, we will plug into point slope. Point slope is y minus your y point, so minus sign would be a +9. And that equals mx minus your x point. Minus 1 is a +1. They did not tell us to go any further, so we can stop there. 14, they want us to set up and solve using matrices. So at a pet store, the total cost of 8 pounds of brand X dog food and 1 pound of Y is $8.40, and then 16 pounds of X and 8 pounds of Y is $24. What is the price per pound? So for my equations, I'm going to do sentence 1 and sentence 2. I know that 8 X's plus 1 Y equals $8.40. And I know that 16 X's plus 8 Y's equals 24. So in the calculator, I'm going to put in 8, 1, 840, 16, 8, and 24, and see what I get. So, second matrix, math, scroll up to B, enter, alpha, zoom, 2 by 3, Okay. I need 8, 1, and 840. And then 16, 8, and 24. I get the 1001, so I know I've put things in correctly. And then I have a real solution. So in my calculator, my answers came out 1001, 0.9, and 1.2. Now the question was, what is the price per pound for Y? Well, my Y's went in second, so where I see the 1 in the second column is going to be my Y value. So it would be $1.20 for brand Y. 15 asks me to write an equation in point-slope form that represents the table and uses the point 2, -2. So when I put this into stat edit, I get the equation 1/2 x minus 3. In order to use point slope again, it's y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. So I need my m, x1, and y1. So from my calculator, I have the m, which is 1/2. I got that from stat edit. And then I have x1 and y1 here. X1 is a -2. Y is going to be a +2 because I changed the sign when I plug into point slope. 21 asks us to set up and solve using matrices. We have a rectangle with a perimeter of 18 centimeters. So whenever we have perimeter problems, we always have a perimeter equation, which is 2L plus 2W equals your perimeter. Remember, once you use it, you can't use it again. The other information I'm giving, length is 5 more than the width. So length is equals 5 more than width. Now, in order to plug these into matrices, I need to move my bottom equation so that L's and W's are on the same side. Now I'm ready to plug in. So in the calculator, I'm going to color code these for you. Blue is 2, 2, and 18 up at the top. Red is 1, -1, +5. So in my calculator, I'm typing all of this in exactly like I see it. I have the 1001, so I know this is a true solution. And then the points 7 and 2. So in this case, I put my L and then my W, so this will be my L and then my W. The question asked me for both of the dimensions. So length is 7 and width is 2. And these are centimeters. 17 asks us for the effect on the graph if the y-intercept is changed to 4. So we have something that started at -6 and had a slope of -3. Oh, hold on. Started at -6 and had a slope of -3. And then they're saying the y-intercept is going to be changed to 4, but the slope stays the same. If the slope is staying the same, it's not going to be steeper or more steep. The new line, the blue is new, so it's being shifted up. They asked for an equation on 18 in slope-intercept form that passes through the equation, is parallel to the equation given. In order to find parallel, I need to find the slope. So -y equals -2x plus 4. Divide everything by -1, so 2x minus 4. Parallel means we have the same slope, so m equals 2. I have my x1 and my y1, so remember point slope is what they're asking for. Oh, just kidding, they're asking for slope-intercept, but we have to start in point slope. So y minus my y point equals m x minus my x point Minus minus is really a plus. Solve from here. So 2 times x, 2 times 6. Add 2 to both sides. So we get 2x plus 14. That is review from an old unit, so if you have questions, you can go back and look at Unit 6. 19, solve using matrices. My x's are aligned, my y's are aligned, my answers are aligned, so I can just go ahead and plug in 5, negative 9, negative 3, 4, negative 3, and 6. I've already done this. When I put it into the calculator, I get 103012. Because I have the 1001, this is my solution. So my solution is 3, 2. Problem 20, a math test has 25 problems. Some are worth 2 and some are worth 3. The test is worth 60 points total. If x is 2-point problems and y is 3-point problems, which system could be used? So in this, we're going to have a problem equation and then a points equation. So problems, there's 25 problems total. So we need x amount of problems and y amount of problems to total to 25. So we could mark out B and D because they have the wrong equations. The only difference between A and C is whether 2 goes with x or 2 goes with 3. X is the number of 2-point problems, so 2 and x need to go together, so C would be my correct answer. 21 is asking us to solve for m. What solution makes that true? So when we distribute, we get negative 6.5m plus 12. And then we distribute over here to get 8 minus 4.5m. From here, I'm going to move the 6.5m to the other side. Remember, I only put m's and m's together, numbers and numbers together. I haven't moved the 12. I haven't moved the 8. When I put these together, I get a positive 2. I move the 8 through the opposite operation. 4 equals 2m. Divide everything by 2, and m equals 2. So an m value of 2 would make that solution true. 22 is talking to us about cookies. We have 48 cookies total, so I can mark out C and B because to find a total I wouldn't subtract, and my total is not 3. From here, the difference is whether we are adding or subtracting in between these two equations. They tell you that chocolate chip cookies are more than 3 times sugar. More than means plus, so A is going to be our correct answer. 23 is talking to us about hamburgers. There's 418 total large and small hamburgers. The total sales were $10.77. Large hamburgers are 3, small hamburgers are $1.50. How many large were sold? So to set this up, we're going to have a money equation. Money plus money equals money. So $3 larges and $1.50 smalls equals $10.77. And then remember, once you've used a number, you can't use it again. The only other information I have is a total of 418. We are talking about larges and smalls, so 1L plus 1S. We can use matrices on this. And our solution from the calc gives us 10670. And 01622. So our solution or the question was how many large hamburgers. Larges went in first, so larges is 670 larges. 24 asks for the inequality of the graph shown. We can see that our graph starts at 5 and goes down 5 to the right 4. Oh, just kidding. There's our point. Goes down 4 to the right 3. So we can mark out C and A because they have the wrong slopes. Y, this is greater than because we're starting at 5 and shading everything greater than 5. So Y needs to be greater than 5, which is answer choice D. 25 asks us to graph the inequality on the grid below and then pick a solution. So we subtract 4x from both sides in order to solve to graph. Divide everything by -3. Because I am dividing by -3, my sign is going to flip. 4 divided by 3 is 4/3, and then -2. So I go down to -2, go up 4, right 3, up 4, right 3. It is a dashed line, so the line does not count or is not included in my solution. Y is greater than -2, so we go above -2. Looking at these points, 7, 0 is not in my shaded area. 0, -2 is on the line. 3, 9 appears in my shaded area. 2, -4 looks like it's also on the line. Oh, sorry, wait. 2, -4. I did 0, -4. So C would be my correct answer. Problem 26 asks us to solve using substitution. So my bottom equation already has something solved for y, so I make my substitution sandwich. I use the same bread on the outsides. The meat of my equation comes from the opposite or the other equation. On my bread, I have solved for y, so in the meat, I am going to leave parentheses in place of y and replace y with what y equals, which is -3x plus 6, and solve from here. When I distribute, 4x stays the same, plus 3x minus 6 equals 15. 7x's minus 6 equals 15. Add 6 to both sides, so 7x equals 21. Divide by 7, and x equals 3. Now, I know what x equals. I know that y is -3x's plus 6. So I'm going to plug in 3 for x. Plug and chug in the calculator. Oh, wait. Yeah. And I get -9 plus 6, which is -3. So my solution is 3, -3. 27, we need to solve for y, so we subtract 2x from both sides. -3y equals -2x plus 6. Divide by -3. So y equals 2/3 x minus 2. So I'm looking for something that starts negative on the y-axis and then has a positive slope. H is the only one that starts negative on the y-axis and ends with a positive slope. 28 asks for a perpendicular line. Perpendicular means flopposite slope. And then we're using the point. So y minus -7 equals my flopposite slope. X minus my x point. Remember that your points change signs. On 29, they're asking for the value of y. We can solve using whatever method we want. So I'm going to add 2x to this side and use matrices. Otherwise, I have to use substitution or solve both of them for y to graph. So using matrices, I will have 4, -1, 5, 2, 1, 1. And in the calculator, I get 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, -1. Their question was the value of y, which is always the bottom number, so y would equal -1. If you have 4, 1 is a solution, then what does that mean? If it is a solution, it means it works for both of the equations. So it has to work for both in order to be a solution. 31 is telling us about a taxi. When it first turns on, it reads $2.20. $1.90 is added for each mile. Write an equation to determine the total cost of the taxi ride. So the cost is going to be the $2.20 that it starts at plus $1.90 per mile that is driven. And my rate of change is going to be whatever's with my slope. So that would be $1.90 per mile. 32 asked me to finish up by graphing the following system of inequalities. So this top equation, I need to solve for y, so I subtract 2x from both sides. Divide by -1. Y equals 2x minus 4. So I start down at 4, up 2, up 2, up 2. Oh, it's not really an inequality, is it? So I graph it. And then bottom equation is already solved. I start at 1, go up 1, right 3, up 1, right 3. So my solution is where they cross, which is at the point 3, 2.
Travis McMillan,